Vaughan Mills Mall had a busy weekend. They always would in a Black Friday weekend, but this was one a little different, quite obviously. And some retailers charged with breaking COVID-19 restrictions in York Region. Joining us now to discuss that, amongst other things, and he was, of course, a longtime member of Parliament in our House of Commons. The Mayor of Vaughan is Maurizio Bevilacqua. Mr. Mayor, I appreciate the time. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Greg, and good morning.
I can't start this without asking you, given you are, Italian, all Italian at heart, your Serie A team of choice, please.
AC Milan.
Well, you're picking the front. Are you sure you're not just front running for me here right now? I know they're unbeaten in 9 matches. Come on.
I've been a AC Milan since I was born. So, and I was born in Italy, as you know, Greg.
Yeah.
And, I go back to the days of the great Rivera and so many other great players that have proudly worn that AC Milan jersey. But what about Ibrahimovic?
I was going to ask about Zlatan. Yeah, he's he's like a vampire. He never ages. He can't be killed.
Well, so there is hope, Greg.
Tell me about your weekend. It's sort of, mixed results. Like I said, that for a place like Vaughan Mills, for York, as much shopping and retail as there is, you'd think it'd be busy. What were your observations of the fact some retailers were ticketed, but go from there and talk about the notion that you obviously have bylaw officers that have to be out, making sure things are done properly on a weekend like that.
Absolutely, and one of the things I'm really proud of is our enforcement team. I mean, let's not just focus on the issue of Black Friday, because enforcement, education, compliance, making sure that people know the rules has been important right from the beginning. As you probably know, we were the first municipality in the province of Ontario to declare a state of emergency when COVID began. And we were monitoring, actually, COVID months prior to the WHO declaring a global pandemic. So I just want to put that in to sort of give you a context of how seriously we take this particular issue here in the city of Vaughan. And our team, prior to Black Friday, we issued 178 tickets and due to violations, and this was one of the highest in the Greater Toronto area. So enforcement is very important. Education is very important. These are sort of the pillars of fighting COVID-19. And what's really important is also for people to understand the rules. By now, I would imagine that we're all collectively as a community well educated in this. You know, we know about physical distancing. We know that, if you own a store, you should put proper signage. We know about the fact that, in a place like Vaughan Mills, we reduced the capacity to 4,000. These are measures that speak to our ability to challenge COVID-19, and that's exactly what we need to do. We have to learn to live with it, because it's going to be with us for a while. And I think overall, the results that we have seen thus far have been positive as they could possibly be.
My recollection is that Vaughan was early on a mask mandate. Mayor Frank Scarpitti from Markham was on with me in the summer and felt it needed that sense of urgency. That it didn't come from the province, and I'm not laying that at Doug Ford's desk, because a lot of provinces didn't install mask mandates and still haven't. They left it to the municipalities, but you were quick on that.
Yes, we were. We were very quick. Greg, and one thing I will say, and you correctly pointed out, it's really not about pointing fingers right now. I think we need a united front as a province, as a country, and as indeed the world. Mistakes will be made. Mistakes have been made, of course, right across the board. But now is really the time to pull our resources together, share a common vision. And the common vision is, how do you reduce the transmission of COVID-19, and what means do we have at our disposal? I mean, we had, I was observing some behaviors here. There was a sports complex where people, while they were playing soccer on the soccer pitch, were wearing a mask. But when they were in the dressing room, they weren't wearing a mask. And this is kind of puzzling, because obviously they understand the importance of wearing a mask in helping with the reduction of transmission of COVID-19. Yet the same people in a dressing room, which is literally 2 feet away from the soccer pitch, were decided not to wear a mask, and it resulted in a spread. So the point I'm trying to make here is the following: that our attack, we are at war with COVID-19. it's not a part-time commitment. It has to be a full-time commitment. And every day in every way, whenever we get up in the morning, the first thing we ought to say to ourselves is, what can I do as an individual to stop the spread of COVID-19? We have to use our intelligence, our common sense, and focus on the big picture.
Mauricio Bevilacqua, our guest, Mayor of Vaughan, joining us, Global News Radio 640 Toronto. Some were surprised that York wasn't placed in lockdown. I know your chief medical officer of health was adamant that it wasn't necessary, wasn't time as of yet. You must look every day at the numbers, and do you think you're moving further away from where a lockdown will be possible, or are you worried at all that the numbers are making you creep towards one?
I'm very hopeful. And Greg, in this situation, really what you can do your very best, right? We have certain tools that we use, and we use, I think, effectively. If there are major outbreaks, they will be obviously challenging to deal with. Having said that, though, I do see the trajectory that we're on in a very positive way. So that's I think the approach you have to use. It's the approach I've certainly used throughout this global pandemic. As you probably remember, we're one of the first cities to close our community centers, our libraries, because we try to reduce as much as we can the transmission of COVID-19, and that is ultimately what you would like to do.
When the business angle as well, you've been described as very much a pro-business politician, and that's actually that's a great distinction to have. Do you look and say, I see the inequalities here between some of the regions allowing the big box stores to stay open where you can buy everything, and the smaller places where, to be honest, many of us have felt more comfortable because we may even know the owner by name. We know there's a limit of people that they keep in. You're under a bigger microscope when there's 5 people in a store as opposed to 100 people in a store. Where do you sort of draw the level of fairness or unfairness to some of the regulations involved right now in those regions?
Well, I think that, fairness and a just society is what we all fight for every day. And I do think that the small business sector has been greatly impacted, and governments in many ways need to do even more than what they're doing, particularly, and I'm talking about, the senior levels of government that have greater financial capacity. Having said that, as you will probably find out, Minister of Finance today in Ottawa will be releasing our economic and fiscal update, and I can tell you that the numbers will probably not be that great in the sense of how much is the country investing and spending to provide, I should say, health care and financial care for citizens. And I think that, and I hope that during this economic and fiscal update, we could also take this opportunity to signal to the small business community that help is on its way.
I'm real curious to get your read on these school numbers, and you must have constituents ask you about schools. Thorncliffe Park, more obviously in Toronto, not in your region, tested 300 of 750 students asymptomatically, and they found a higher than 4% positivity rate. They found 19 positive cases. Would you like to see sort of a trial balloon floated up with a school in your area just to get a sense? Because that's what a lot of business owners are saying, Mr. Mayor, is there's probably a lot of transmission in at-home gatherings and potentially from asymptomatic school children. We're starting to wonder about these things now.
Greg, the reality is there's going to be that kind of transmission anywhere where people are gathering. This is a virus that attaches itself very quickly, and that is the reason why we need to follow the rules, like wearing a mask. And everybody, I think, knows what the rules are by now, and that's I think the essential issue that is going to put us through, get us over the hump over these obstacles that COVID-19 is facing. In the final analysis, Greg, this is what I've kind of discovered over the number of months here, that what we knew early on about what our behavior ought to be right from the beginning of COVID-19 is really more or less what we can do today, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's sort of the narrative that is often not spoken about, but should be highlighted, is that now we are like months and months into this, and we're obviously repeating the same theme. But what is it that we can do hasn't really changed that much. So by now we should have developed new habits. As you know, habit formation takes approximately 30 to 40 days. And our commitment, which is, I want to go back to what I said earlier, our commitment cannot be a part-time commitment. It has to be a full-time commitment, and so that you're not behaving like some individuals did in that soccer pitch and changing room differently. I think that's really the answer, and that's where I think we need to focus on and continue this. Sometimes, we have to reboot our education program. Sometimes we have to reboot our awareness program because people kind of forget, because it's not a normal state of living. This is not what we're accustomed to.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but this is probably the first time that you and I have seen so many masks in our cities, since we were born.
It'll be a pleasure never to wear one again the rest of my existence. I'm sure you're thinking the same thing at a certain point in time. Even on Halloween, there'll be no more costumes involving masks from 2021 on. Maurizio Bevilacqua is the mayor of Vaughan. I love Vaughan. I miss it. I've spent so much ridiculous, money at Vaughan Mills and at Canada's Wonderland, and I want to keep doing it. So we want the new normal to return, and I want to be able to come back to both those places and ride the Leviathan and all that stuff. We got to make that happen.
Greg, thank you so much, and I want to also take this opportunity to thank the vast majority of Ontarians, of Canadians, of the citizens of Vaughan for following the rules. We often speak about those who break them, but really, I've been really impressed with how responsible people have been throughout COVID.
No, there's a lot to be proud of as to how we've bonded together and picked each other up on days and weeks when we've needed it. I appreciate the time. We'll get to talk again. I appreciate you coming on with me.
Thanks, Greg. Be well.
That's Maurizio Bevilacqua, mayor of Vaughan.